What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 8 top 12 defense rankings. Definitely kind of a thinner group of defenses this week. I mean, with 6 teams on bye, you're just looking at like straight up 3 fewer matchups, but I still think there are some interesting options. Does get a little bit sketchy towards the back end of like the top 12. But let's just dive right into the rankings here. And starting off in tier 1, this is going to be a 1-tier team. It is the Colts going up against the Titans. And the Colts are honestly like the perfect combination of a really strong fantasy defense going up against a fantastic matchup, just a brutal offense in the Tennessee Titans. So defenses going up against the Titans are scoring the most fantasy points per game. The Titans clearly have the lowest implied point total, just like they've had pretty much every single week this season. And then the Colts, like I mentioned, they've been a very productive defense. They are 4th in fantasy points per game. So if you have the Colts, I think they are a locked-in number 1 defense this week. Then moving into tier 2, also really strong options. Starting it off with the Patriots going up against the Browns. The Patriots defense has also been really strong for fantasy. They are 3rd in fantasy points per game. The Browns have the 2nd lowest implied point total this week. Defenses going up against the Browns are scoring the 7th most points per game. This is really just an offense that does not scare me at all. We'll see about the status of David Njoku, but with him even in or out of the lineup, I don't think it changes a ton. Patriots, nice defense. Browns, really solid matchup to go up against. Then I have the Falcons going up against the Dolphins. This Dolphins offense is just really rough. They have the 4th lowest implied point total. Defenses going up against them are top 6 in points per game. Tua is just not playing at a high level. The team is tied for 1st in interceptions. So Falcons not coming off the greatest game against the 49ers, but the defense looked really good the week before against the Bills, and then just a much better matchup than both of those past 2 weeks going up against the Dolphins here. And then my final tier 2 team, it's going to be the Chiefs going up against the Commanders. Right before I started recording this, got the notification Jaden Daniels going to be out. Obviously, that is a huge plus for the Chiefs going up against the Commanders. It's now Marcus Mariota. There's still uncertainty about the weapons, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel. I mean, you could be looking at like this Commanders team without their number 1 quarterback, without their top 2 wide receivers. It's not going to be a pretty looking offense. Commanders already bottom 5 in implied points. Chiefs defense hasn't been like amazing for fantasy, but I like the matchup. I think they're a really solid play. Now moving into tier 3, I'd say this is like the final tier where I feel pretty solid playing these defenses. I'm going to start it off with the Texans going up against the 49ers. The Texans defense has just been extremely impressive. They are 1st in fantasy points per game. They're only giving up 14.7 points from a real-life perspective. That is 1st in the NFL by 2 whole points per game. So they're separating themselves from the pack. The last 2 games, they've really been forcing turnovers. Early in the season, they had done a good job of not giving up a ton of points, but they hadn't been forcing turnovers. Last 2 games, 7 turnovers forced. Really made it tough on the Seahawks offense, which had looked pretty good in week 7. It's not a great matchup against the 49ers. Like they might be getting Brock Purdy back this week. We'll see about Ricky Pearsall. But I just really do trust this defense, which is why I have them here leading tier 3. And you'll see with some of the other teams in this tier, maybe they have better matchups, but they're just not quite as reliable from a defense perspective. The clear example of that is the Bengals going up against the Jets, because I do not trust this Bengals defense. They are not a good unit coming into this game. They are 31st in fantasy points per game. I just think the matchup against the Jets is kind of like just overpowers them here. Like I think the Jets are worse offensively than the Bengals are on the defensive end. Defenses going up against the Jets are scoring the 3rd most points per game. The Jets are tied for the 6th lowest implied point total. You know, we were pretty much getting info that it was going to be Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Now he's banged up. He's day-to-day. You've got the owner just dumping on Justin Fields. The vibes are terrible with the Jets right now. Who knows about the status of Garrett Wilson? This is just a really, really gross offense, and I think the Bengals defense is going to win out here. Then we've got the Bills going up against the Panthers. The Panthers are actually tied with the 6th lowest implied point total with the Jets. Bryce Young going to miss this week with an ankle injury. Don't think it's like a huge downgrade for them offensively with Andy Dalton. You could actually make the case that it might be a slight positive for them. But defense is going up against the Panthers, scoring the 8th most points per game. The Bills defense has not been great for fantasy, actually only 24th in points per game, but they're coming off the bye week. I think this is a nice get right spot for them here. And then the eighth defense here, the final team in tier three, it's going to be the Eagles going up against the Giants. Now, you look at the Eagles this week, and Vegas is pretty high on them, or at least they're pretty low on the Giants' offense. The Giants have the third lowest implied point total, and typically when Vegas has a team bottom three in projected points, I'm going to be much higher on that defense than number 8 overall. But the Giants have some week-to-week upside. They've scored over 30 points in back-to-back matchups. That was against the Eagles in week 6, and then the very, very tough Broncos defense in week 4. So they're not a super easy matchup here. You've got Jackson Dart, who's playing at a super high level, especially in his first 4 games as the starter. And then the Eagles defense has been fine. They're 12th in points per game. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants offense came back down to earth. But they do scare me a little bit. Like some of these other teams that don't project well, the offense doesn't scare me, even if the defense doesn't perform amazingly. But like the Giants can really punish you just with their young core offensively. So Eagles, the last option in tier 3. And then moving into tier 4, this is where we're just getting into don't necessarily love these plays. They're kind of just potential mid-level defenses against mid-level offenses. I'll start off with the Packers going up against the Steelers. Now, I would be a little bit sketched out going up against Aaron Rodgers in this revenge game, but the Steelers offense overall doesn't really scare me. They haven't been great to go up against for fantasy, they're bottom 10 in points per game allowed to defenses, but they're also bottom 10 in implied points this week. The Packers defense has kind of been underwhelming from a fantasy perspective, only 22nd in points per game, but I think back end defense 1 is a pretty fair spot. Then I've got the Buccaneers going up against the Saints. Saints are at 20.5 implied points. Bucs defense has just been very average this year for fantasy, 17th in points per game. Not super scared of this Saints offense. Don't have supreme confidence in the Bucs defense, but that's kind of where we're at with 6 teams on bye. Kind of a similar situation with the Chargers going up against the Vikings. The Vikings are also at 20.5 implied points. Chargers defense only 25th in points per game, but defense is going up against the Vikings are scoring the 4th most points per game. No JJ McCarthy. It's Carson Wentz. Started to mount a comeback late in that game against the Eagles, but also just had some back-breaking mistakes early on in that game. So Carson Wentz at quarterback just does not scare me. And then the 12th and final team in these rankings, we've got the 49ers going up against the Texans. This is an offense that has been very underwhelming. The offensive line is really, really rough. And then I'm not expecting Nico Collins to play in this game. Suffered a concussion on Monday Night Football. And you just look at how bad this offense has been. Even Nico hasn't really been able to get going. And so you're all right, if Nico's not out there, who are the 49ers actually going to be going up against? It's going to be Dalton Schultz as the number 1 target. You do have the young rookies in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll, but they might end up playing those dudes less snaps than Xavier Hutchinson and Braxton Berrios, because for some reason they just don't want to see these young dudes out on the field. So the Texans don't scare me. 49ers defense has been serviceable even after the injuries to Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. So I wouldn't feel amazing playing them, but I'd be fine with them in my lineup this week. And so that's going to wrap it up for my top 12 defense rankings. If you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe, check out the running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends. Those are all posted on the channel. I'll have my flex rankings out tomorrow. But thank you again for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next one.